There's a lot of European cities in India, but the first one was not Goa, Mumbai, or even Kolkata. It was Fort Kochi. So let's go back to the 1500s. When the Portuguese first arrived in Kerala, they tried to set up a post in Calicut, but they were unsuccessful. And that's when they partnered up with the Kochi king. The Portuguese helped the Kochi king fight off many battles, ensuring his throne. And in return, the Kochi king helped the Portuguese have a monopoly on the spice trade, which at that time was very important for the Europeans. So eventually, the Portuguese started taking control over Kochi. They even built a fort to protect Kochi from outside colonial powers. They called this fort Fort Emmanuel, and even today, this name sticks. Fort Emmanuel just became Fort Kochi. If you come to Fort Kochi even today, you can see a relic from the Fort Emmanuel which exists till today. This is a 500-year-old cannon which used to be part of Fort Emmanuel. This is St. Francis Church, the first ever European church in India, built by the Portuguese. Interestingly, Vasco da Gama was buried here in this church. It is actually crazy to think that. Speaking about Vasco da Gama, I just found his house. Yep, apparently this is where he stayed on his visits to Kochi. But like all great powers, this too came to an end. And on January 7th, 1663, the Dutch defeated the Portuguese and took over Kochi. After 100 years, the Portuguese colonial era was over, starting another one, a Dutch one. The Dutch takeover was interesting. Kochi had a king who was a Portuguese puppet, and he wasn't really popular by that time. Anti-Portuguese sentiments grew in Kochi. The Dutch, seeing this, capitalized the political situation and won over Kochi. After the Dutch took over, they did exactly what the Portuguese did. They built a fort, and in return, they got spices. A new Kochi king was crowned, but only crowned with the Dutch crown. It even had the emblem of the Dutch East India Company. Even today, you can see the emblem in Kochi. This is VOC Gate in front of Parade Ground in Kochi. And as you can see, it still bears with it the Dutch East India Company emblem. Even today in Kochi, you can see a lot of Dutch colonial remnants. One of them is the Old Harbour Hotel, which was originally built by the Portuguese, later renovated by the Dutch. Others are Bastion Bungalow, the Dutch Warehouse, VOC Gate, and even the Dutch Palace, which again was built by the Portuguese, renovated by the Dutch. Okay, so the year is 1795. France had just invaded the Netherlands, and the Dutch retreated to England. And the Anglo-Dutch Treaty was signed, basically handing all Dutch colonies to the English. And that's how, ladies and gentlemen, the third colonial power took place in Kochi, the English. Since the British was not only just ruling Kochi but all of India, they were really efficient. They built administrative offices, they connected railroads, they built ports for trade. Hell, even the two main railway stations of Ernakulam is built by the British. If you go to Kochi today, it is filled with British era roads and bridges. This is Thopumbadi Bridge, which connects Kochi. And back in the day when it was built in 1943, the middle of the bridge used to lift up so that the ships can pass through. But it did stop working in the 90s. But by far, the biggest achievement during the British era was Wellington Island. We are talking about a whole man-made island. That's 1,600 acres. The British realized that the Kochi needed a port, and that is why they assigned Sir Arthur Bristow to make a whole island. This was possible by the use of a dredger machine, and it is reported that a dredger was used for 20 hours a day for 2 years for this island to come alive. Today, Wellington Island has Port of Kochi and also the Indian Navy base. And on the night of August 15th, 1947, India had regained independence. The British troops had left.
But the national flag, the saffron, white and green tricolour, was publicly unfurled. And for the rest, it was crowds, 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 all rejoicing over the birth of the Dominion of India.
The Kingdom of Kochi was in fact one of the first princely states to join the Indian Union. If you visit Kochi today, you can see a lot of remnants of its colonial past, making it history's witness to the greatest three empires of the 20th century. And that was the story of Kochi, where the European conquest of India had begun. And I'll see you later.